Welcome back to Movie Nirvana. Today I'm breaking down a 2009 comedy fantasy mystery film called Symbol. Spoilers ahead, so stay alert. A Japanese man dressed in loud, multicolored pajamas jolts awake inside a stark white chamber. There are no doors, no windows, and no visible ceiling, just endless white. Curious, he steps closer to one wall and notices something strange jetting out, a small protrusion unmistakably shaped like a male organ. He pokes it a few times, then presses the tip. Instantly, hundreds of laughing baby angels burst from the walls and floor. They linger only for seconds before disappearing the same way they arrived, but now similar protrusions cover the walls and floor. This stage is what can be called the learning phase. He sniffs the finger he used to touch the odd switch and lets out a terrified scream, followed by sobbing and desperate pleas for help. No one answers. With nothing else to do, he begins pressing different buttons to observe the results. Each press drops a random item into the room, anything from a tiny toothbrush to a massive vase. Pressing the same switch again produces the exact same object. Testing this theory, he repeatedly presses one button and ends up with a towering pile of chopsticks. His excitement doesn't last long. When he presses the button next to the chopstick one, a small cart shoots out of the wall and slams straight into his legs. The very next switch he hits, still wincing from the pain, morphs into a butt that promptly lets out a fart right in his face. Hours pass and the room is now packed with a bizarre collection of random items. When he tosses a ball at the wall, it accidentally triggers a button that drops sushi into the room. This thrills him since hunger has started to kick in, but he quickly notices one crucial thing is missing: soy sauce. He begs his unseen captors to give him some, but as usual, there's no response. Frustrated, he keeps pressing one button again and again until a large spread of sushi piles up in front of him, still without any sauce. Finally giving in, he starts eating. To his surprise, it tastes amazing. Once he finishes the last piece, he presses the button again for more, only to explode with rage when a bottle of soy sauce finally appears. He angrily shoves it aside and hits another switch, which drops a pair of old-fashioned red and blue 3D glasses. Putting them on, he suddenly notices a baby angel pointing toward his own private parts. He lights up, convinced he's cracked the code. But when he presses that specific button, all he gets is a countdown, followed by a massive butt descending from above and blasting gas directly onto him. Several hours later, he's passed the time by reading 5 volumes of a manga he's genuinely enjoying. When he presses a button hoping for volume 6, he instead receives volume 7. Annoyed, he tries other buttons and ends up with volumes 8 and 9, but still no 6. Then, with the final button he tests, something unexpected happens. A section of the wall slides open, revealing a hidden door. He celebrates the discovery, overjoyed at the sight of a possible exit. But in his excitement, he forgets exactly which button opened it. Guessing at random, he presses another switch and watches an African tribesman sprint from one wall to the other. The next button sends water pouring down over his head. The third switch finally turns out to be the right one, and the moment the wall slides open, he dashes toward it, only for it to slam shut right in his face. He tries again with the same result, and that's when it clicks. The exit stays open only while the tip of the protrusion is held down. Realizing this, he starts experimenting with different methods to keep it pressed. First, he strikes a runner's pose and pushes it down using his foot. Then, he smacks it with a fly swatter from the farthest distance he can manage, hoping the extra space will give him more time to sprint. Neither works. Pulling it with a jump rope fails too, as does blasting it with air from a fan. His next idea is to climb onto the cart and shove off after pressing the button, but after several attempts, he accepts that he simply can't control it well enough. Eventually, he understands the real problem. He needs something that will hold the tip down continuously. He places the large vase on top of it, but the button stubbornly pops back up. That's when he realizes the vase needs more weight. He tries filling it using the water button, but no matter how hard he attempts to redirect the stream, the water only pours onto him instead of into the vase. His next strategy is stuffing the vase with sushi. It works almost too well. The vase becomes so heavy that he can't even lift it. Worse, the opening is too narrow for his hand, leaving him no choice but to use chopsticks to remove the sushi one piece at a time. After a while, once enough has been taken out, he manages to barely hoist the vase. With great effort, he carries it over toward the buttons. Once he reaches the area, he's forced to set the vase down on the floor because he's lost track of the correct button yet again.
When he presses one at random, the African tribesman bursts out and accidentally collides with the vase, cracking it cleanly in two. That's the breaking point for the man. As he panics, shouting uncontrollably, he finally hits the correct switch and starts piling sushi on top of it. Naturally, that fails too, as the small protrusion pushes up through the rice. Next, he tries sealing the button with tape, then tape reinforced with a metal plate, but nothing holds it down. After swallowing some painkillers to cope with the repeated blows from the door slamming into his back and taking a short nap, he decides to rinse his mouth. He presses a button for water, but it's the wrong one, and instead, a rope drops from the ceiling. This immediately lifts his spirits, since it sparks a fresh idea. He opens the door and uses the rope to swing across the room, hoping to reach the exit before it shuts. Unfortunately, when he attempts to open the door hidden behind the false wall, he finds it locked. He rushes back into the room just before the wall seals again, though it still manages to smack him on the way out. Furious, he kicks the wall, triggering another button and revealing a key hovering in the center of the room.
Just like the door, the key disappears the moment the button pops back out, meaning he now has to figure out how to keep both the door open and the key visible at the same time. Before that, though, he has to locate the correct button again, since the chaos made him lose it. Estimating where his foot landed when he kicked the wall, he presses a nearby switch, only for a dog to burst out and start barking at him. The next switch brings the same outcome, but on the third attempt, luck finally swings his way. Keeping his eyes locked on the spot and a finger aimed at it, the man slowly steps backward, grabs a piece of sushi, and returns to the wall to mark the correct button. But the moment he presses it again, the dog pops out once more. This time, he locates the button much quicker and carries on with his strategy. He makes the rope appear and swings across the room, trying to reach the other switches, yet it still falls short. As he crashes back onto the floor, he notices a plunger he'd received earlier from one of the many buttons, and an idea clicks. He can use the plunger to stick to the wall and push himself farther. After one failed trial, the plan finally works. By combining the rope swing with a well-timed push from the plunger, he manages to hit the key button, snatch the key, activate the door switch, and reach the exit just before it slams shut. Without wasting a second, he jams the key into the lock and twists it fast. But when he tries to pull the door open, another problem appears. A second lock sits at the top, demanding a 3-digit code. He bolts back out just as the door slams shut on him, smacking him again. In pure frustration, he hurls the plunger across the room, triggering the button that releases the African tribesman. Watching the man pass by, he suddenly notices 3 numbers painted across his forehead, and it clicks. Those have to be the combination. With only limited time behind the door, he repeats the entire routine of swinging on the rope and leaping across the room 3 separate times, once for each number he needs to enter. On the third attempt, he stays put and tries to open the door, but it's jammed and requires extra force. When he finally manages to move it, the wall section behind him snaps shut, trapping him in place with barely enough space left to finish opening the door. Heartbroken, the man drops to the floor and breaks down in tears, replaying all the fun he once had with the strange items the buttons had given him. He'd been trapped back then too, but at least he had space to move and things to distract him. Only now does he realize he never valued that freedom while it lasted. Suddenly, a faint draft brushes against his face from the wall to his left. The moment he touches it, he feels a thin crack and realizes it's not real. Without hesitation, he shoves the panel open and bolts through, soon finding himself in a strange corridor suspended in total darkness. It feels like he runs forever toward an unseen exit, and when he finally reaches another room, his hair has grown longer and the bright colors of his pajamas have dulled. This new room is empty as well, and the door snaps shut the instant he enters. But instead of baby angels, fully grown ones appear here. They vanish into the walls too, leaving only their protrusions behind to serve as buttons. This stage is known as practice. At the same time, in a city in Mexico, young Antonio's family grows concerned, as his father, a masked wrestler called Escargot Man, has become unusually quiet and withdrawn. His wife believes the tension comes from the fact that his next rival is far younger, but the grandfather insists that skill and experience matter more than age. Escargot Man is later picked up by his daughter, Sister Karen, in her truck, and she drives him to the arena early so he can prepare. His routine includes changing into his gear and offering a prayer to the Virgin. Meanwhile, at school, Antonio is being mocked by his classmates for placing his bet on Escargot Man, calling him a weak loser.
As match time draws closer, Sister Karen takes the van once more to pick up Antonio and their grandfather so they can watch Escargot Man compete. She drops them off and leaves, and the two manage to grab some of the final available seats just before the show kicks off. The first team to enter the ring is the Northern Tough Ones, made up of Super Demon and Tequila Joe. Next, Escargot Man arrives with his partner Silver Eagle, competing under the team name Kiss Me a Lot. Silver Eagle starts the match for their side and comes out strong, putting on an impressive opening. However, he's quickly overwhelmed when the Northern Tough Ones gang up on him instead of fighting fair. They repeatedly signal to Escargot Man, urging him to step in, but he refuses, until Silver Eagle pulls a clever move that causes Super Demon and Tequila Joe to strike each other, giving him the chance to break free.
Escargot Man is overwhelmed just as fast. Right as one opponent raises a chair to strike him, the man trapped in the strange white room presses a member-shaped button. Instantly, Escargot Man's neck stretches unnaturally, allowing him to headbutt both rivals and knock them out cold. Back in the room, nothing changes, which grabs the man's attention. He keeps pressing the same button, triggering Escargot Man to knock out Silver Eagle, the referee, Antonio, and even the ringing bell. With no visible effect around him, the man begins experimenting with other buttons. One causes a heavy metal singer at a Los Angeles concert to breathe fire over the crowd. Another makes a Russian magician completely botch his illusion while trying to make his assistant vanish. A third forces a man in China to start barking back at his own dogs. Just as he's about to give up, he notices light shining from above. Unlike the previous room, this one has no ceiling, and he can see angels flying far overhead. That's when he decides to try something entirely different. Instead of pressing the member buttons, he starts using them as handholds to climb the walls. To his surprise, it works. Each time he grabs one with his hands or steps on one with his feet, incredible events unfold on Earth, ranging from flowers suddenly blooming to an elephant collapsing and dying.
The higher he climbs, the more intricate the outcomes become. It's no longer just about nature. Humanity enters the picture too. From tiny everyday moments like a toaster popping up to massive achievements such as landing on the moon. By the time he reaches the very top, the man's hair and beard have grown long, and he no longer needs the wall for support. He can now float freely, just like the angels. Drawing on everything he learned in the earlier rooms, he fully accepts a godlike role, deliberately selecting humanity's greatest milestones instead of triggering events at random. When he finishes, walls are gone, replaced by a sea of feathers. He steps into a radiant portal that carries him into the final chamber. This room displays the continents across its walls, along with a massive, member-shaped button waiting to be pressed. This stage is known as the future.
Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.